the day, Dr. Adesh Saini, and respected participants, on behalf of our institute, Maharishi Markandesh Institute of Computer Technology and Business Management, Honorable Principal Professor Dr. Sumit Mittal, and the entire management of Maharishi Markandeshwar Deemed to be University.
Dear participants,
Yes, I, Rubika Walia, welcome you all in this International Research Orientation Program on Day 4. Topic for today's discussion is funding agencies for research grant. Funding agencies are government or non-government body providing monitoring grant for scientific research areas, science and technology, social science, etc. There are various funding agencies are available which provide grants for research in various fields. Finding relevant grant for your research takes time, but we know this is only a part of process. Writing the grant can be time consuming too. With that in mind, we are here with us Dr. Adesh Saini to discuss on this topic. I am highly privileged to introduce our guest of honor. Dr. Adesh Saini is currently working as a professor in Department of Biotechnology, MMEC MMTU, and chairman of Institutional Biosafety Committee of MMDU. Earlier, he was director of Center of Research on Himalayan Sustainability and Development and Dean cum Head of Faculty of Science at Sholini University. His research group focuses on sustainable development of Himalayan ecosystem using state-of-art themes of microbial biodiversity, genetics, gene regulation, and nanobacteriology on oncology. His research publication include paper in highly reputed journal, Gene and Development, Nucleic Acid Research, EMGOJ Journal of Biological Micromolecules, Material and Engineering C, Journal of Cleaner Production, and eLife. It gave me a tremendous pleasure to introduce you and having you with us, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, we are ready for the session and over to you, sir, now. Please take over the session, sir. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Rubika. Thank you so much for the nice introduction. I'm very honored and I feel very privileged that Honorable Chairman sir, our registrar sir, you guys have given me an opportunity to interact with you. I don't know how to say, but this is like a festival season, so I hope our festivals will go very fine in this Corona age. And in the festivals, we all need money, especially the researchers, right? So I think by today's talk, we would be able to deal with a couple of things which talks about research, which also talks about how we can get the grants, right? And first of all, I want to congratulate because I was in most of the talks on RACs or on how we can develop funding agent, how we can write the research papers and all those things. So today's talk would be focusing on a couple of aspects which I'm going to discuss. So let me share my screen with all of you. And yeah, I guess it's here. Just give me a second and then I can share the screen. I'm sorry to present now. Window. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, here it goes. Okay, so I guess the screen is visible, right? Shulka?
Yes, sir, it's visible, sir.
Okay, perfect. So
your voice is not so clear.
Now it is fine?
Yes, sir, it's fine now.
Okay, so today we are going to talk about how we find funding agencies for research grants, right? And believe me, I mean, it's just a small metaphor I want to create over here. It's like when we were young, we were looking for matrimonials, right? And whenever we see matrimonials, it always looks like we are looking for something. But believe me, when you see a matrimonial, they are actually looking for you also, right? So this is something related to funding agencies also. So funders and scientists, they are actually both looking for each other. Funders are looking for scientists who can work with them, who can work towards their themes, and scientists are also trying to find various funders who can actually uh, support their research ideas, support their thoughts, and so that they can pursue their research, right? So both are looking for each other. Believe me, this is very, very true in the case of in the case of funding, right? So in today's talk, what I will try to do is how to bridge the gap. So what we see, like there is a small gap between both of them, and in today's talk, I believe that we would be able to build this gap somehow, right? So the flow of the talk would be something like this. So I would say, first of all, we will start with like how a researcher begins its journey, right? And in a couple of minutes, we will discuss that. Then we are going to talk about like what are the funding agencies which are available nationally and globally, right? And then I'm going to do a small exercise over here so that the people who are in their early career, they can learn like we can pitch a very nice proposal, we can write a proposal, and what are the different parts of an application which a application form has, and it's from the topic to the budget, like how we design a budget. And sometimes when we pursue a grant and then the rejections come, so some suggestions are there, like how we can take these rejections and how we can again start, right? And also these days people talk about mega research grants like 100 crore rupees, right? So one of my friend got a consortium grant of 100 crore rupees, and talking to him, I thought like, let me share my those thoughts with you guys, so that in coming future at our Maharishi Markandeya University, we would be able to build some sort of great centers, I would say, in terms of mega grants, right? So this is one part of the story. So let's go through the talk. So what we believe is that whenever a scientist is recruited to a university or to an institution, first of all, the institution, they provide them some sort of lab space and some sort of seed money by which they can start their work, right? And then these scientists, they come up with some proposals, they have hypotheses, some ideas, they do some literature survey, and based on that, they try to make a proposal, and for that, they need a small team, right? So you cannot do everything of your own. So you have with you like graduate students, postgraduate students, right? So PhD students. So we all have these kind of students with us, and beside this, we also develop collaboration, right, with our colleagues, or the people like who can actually complement our research, right? So we cannot do everything of our own. We all understand that. So we do collaborations. We sometimes some people, they join consortiums, right, which are a larger group of scientists, like which are working on a single theme, right? So you might have heard this thing called this God particle, right? So on this particle, I don't remember the name, like Hugon boson, something like that. So that is a part of a larger consortium. Different countries join together and they are trying to solve a small mystery. So this collaboration could be national or international. But when we do all this exercise, right, so as a scientist, what we find is there is a very important learning comes up, that science costs money. Believe me, this is very true. So nothing comes free, right? So you actually do this this exercise, and you find like, yeah, I need a lot of money to do my research, to do something to prove the hypothesis or something like that. So important learning is that science costs money, and this is the point where a scientist actually start looking for funding, right? So then it becomes very important also. So they look for funding and they try to see if some funds are available at the level of at a country level or internationally, or sometimes there are certain joint fundings given by 2 or 3 countries together. So they look for all these things, right? So so as I told you, like, you are looking for funding and the funders are looking for you also. Okay, so during this journey of a scientist, and I actually learned that as an institution or as a university or as a country, I would say, there is an irrefutable fact is that the amount of funding actually which is secured or which is obtained by any higher education institution is actually proportional to the quality of research they are doing. If you talk about ISC Bangalore, say for example, right? If you talk about Harvard, if you talk about University of Delhi or even Punjab University, right? You talk about Oxford University. These all universities are getting a very, very decent amount of research funding. Their scientists are able to secure their funding, right? And that is actually adding up to the quality of research they are doing. So we are in the era where we talk about Times Higher Education rankings, we talk about NRF ranking, we talk about NAC and blah, blah, blah. There are like many ranking systems are there. And most of the ranking systems, they actually look for the quality of research your people are doing. Because once you produce something, that will actually add on to the perception of the university, right? So how your university is doing, how the scientists over there are doing, right? It also develops the relationship with the industry, right? It also adds endowment funds which you get from industries and from other places, right? It also adds indirectly to the economy of a region, or I would say a nation, and it also proportional to the development of the nation too, right? And it also creates resources. So for example, if a institution get a huge grant, right, and they develop resources of different types of engineering technology or artificial intelligence or some sort of cancer center facility. So those resources are also not only used by the higher education institution, but also by other people, right? So this fact is very, very true. I strongly believe this, that how much research funding you are getting is actually proportional to the quality of your institution, right? So what is the quality, right? And how much research you are doing. And many times to fuel these things, the institutions also fuel money. So when I joined Maharishi Markandeshwar deemed to be university over here, I looked at the labs, the quality of lab which we have at the Center Research Cell. I was amazed to see the amount of funding and the support which our university has given us. Like there are immense amount of instruments, and instrumentation is very strong. The scientists working over here are very strong. So I feel that a good amount of research will come up, and of course it is coming up right now. So this is something which our university, I guess, it also perceived the idea that let's fund the scientists and give them an opportunity to work upon their ideas. So when we look at different funding sources, so when scientists understand this, so they go and look for funding sources, right? So there are different types of agencies which are available. So one type of agency, I would say national agency. National means like which are present in a country and they fund the thoughts of that country. They try to solve certain problems, right? Similarly, there are some funding agency, like if we talk about our nation, India. So we jointly fund many programs, like with, say, for example, with Germany, right? So we have Indo-German pact where we fund various ideas, right? Similarly, there is a like Indo-US grants, Indo-UK grants, and something like that. It's always flowing, right? Besides this, there are certain independent international agencies like United Nations, right? Like World Bank, Melinda Gates Foundation, right? So all those agencies, they also fund certain thoughts, which the themes are actually decided by them, of course. But they fund different types of ideas, right? Similarly, some industries, they also fund various institutions or various research scientists, and they many times they open their labs over there. So when I visited last year United Kingdom in Cranfield University, so I found that the huge car company Nissan actually opened a huge center over there where they can test the racing cars and all those speeds, and engineering department was doing really great along with them. So what I'm trying to say is that various agencies can fund your thoughts, right? So at the level of institution or at the level of individual scientists. So these are the, so I would be going one by one with all these agencies, and we can talk about more of these, right? So coming to our nation, like India, we have various departments, right? So which actually fund the ideas, right? So we have Department of Science and Technology, which we call in short form DST. We have Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR. CSIR, we have DAE, DRDO, Department of Biotechnology, even University Grant Commission gave many grants to at the level of university and individual level. Indian Council of Medical Research, they provide funds, CTE, and various ministry. And out of these agency, in the last 9-10 years, when I came back from US after doing my postdoc at NIH, I was able to secure some funding from Department of Science and Technology. I got 2 projects from there. I also received funding from Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, which works on mountain development, and also from State Council. So yeah, I know I didn't discuss that because states also fund research projects. Like our state is Haryana, so we have a state council which routinely send proposal idea. I mean, they send various advertisement by which we can get our funding, right? So I was able to get that, and there are certain schemes which our different departments they do, like Department of Science and Technology. They have a program called FIST and PERS grant, which is given for the development of infrastructure development in a university. Similarly, there's a program called BioCare program, which has a great opportunity, which is run by DBT. Similarly, Nanomission, Ayush has a Satyam program. There are certain core grants and startup grants. Importantly, there are certain grants which are also available for women scientists. So if some female scientists, they want to pursue their research career, they can also write to under these schemes, right? So these are certain schemes which are run independently by DST or DBT. So they are annually there. So you can look at those websites and you can get the grants. Besides these independent fundings which are given, there are certain fundings which jointly countries give, right? So, say for example, India and German, they have some pact under which they can fund certain ideas. Similarly, Indo-US grant. I have recently wrote a grant to Indo-UK collaborative grant, right? So there are certain fundings which are available, which we can apply jointly, like Indo-German, Indo-US, Indo-Australia, Indo-New Zealand. Like there are certain DBT Wellcome Trust Alliance, Indo-UK grant. There's a very interesting grant which we call Horizon 2020, which is a European Union grant with DBT. And this grant has a very huge amount of money they can give. It can go to like 100 to 150 crore rupees. Right. So I'm going to discuss at the end of the talk about this particular grant also, so that let us all excite ourselves. How much money is sitting outside, right? So there are many joint funding are available to all the scientists. So I guess in 2016, I was able to secure one of the Indo-New Zealand grant, right? So I was the principal investigator of the grant. So I would be discussing a little bit of tricky ideas, how we can get the grants, and I would be discussing how to fill a research proposal. So besides these national agencies, as I told you, there are certain global international agencies which independently fund different projects, like World Bank projects are there. There are United Nations projects, Ford Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They also work independently as well as with Indian government. So this is a list of organizations which can fund research ideas, and they welcome applications from throughout the globe, right? So anybody can approach whenever there is a call for proposal. You can write to them, and they can take your call, right? And last year I was able to secure a grant from Nepal, which is EC Mode. EC Mode is also an international organization which works for mountain development. So we organized a conference, and for that we got a couple of dollars from them. So many funding is available, right? So I mean, we always wonder why a funder fund, right? So what is it in for them, and why I mean, even as a nation, we always wonder like why TST will fund to any scientist, right? So what it melt down to is that all these agencies, they actually have money given to them by their respective government or respective departments to cater or to look for solutions to the problem. They could be national, they could be regional problems, they could be global problems, right? So the funders, they throw ideas which try to resolve certain issues at various levels. They also give funding for core research areas, like you want to develop some, you want to understand. So, for example, like as I told you, this this particle, the God particle, right? So in that also people, they try to fund for the core research, right? People also fund to do surveys. So for example, if you want to develop some vaccines, you need to do certain surveys. Besides, there are certain small fundings are available to organize conferences, to workshop. They also fund fellowships, and also if some scientists want to go abroad. So these are the minor fundings which are available, which help the researchers to broaden their ideas, right? So you can go for a national or international travel grants. You can apply to DST, to DBT, or even ICMR provides certain grants for travel. So these are the ideas where which gives us like why a funder is funding. So funder, how they fund, right? So the funders, they have a different perspective. So the funder, the funding agencies, they actually fund a theme, right? So very importantly, we need to see whenever we are looking at any proposal, what is the theme of the call, right? So what is the theme of the proposal, right? So they look for different types of themes. They also see like how much we want to extend the study, right? So extent of the study could be global. The extent of study could be multidisciplinary approach, or different type of aspects are there. They also give funding to specific regions, say for example Himalayas, right? Or you can say for example, I would say ocean basins, right? So, or the nuclear energy, something like that. In those particular areas, they give fund. They also give fund according to the availability of the fund, right? So right now, because of this corona, lot of fundings are decreased at the level of government agencies, both nationally as well as internationally. So how much funds are available to support the theme is also kind of important. So this is from the angle of a funder. So sometimes, like whenever I talk to my friends, so like we always say like so many agencies are available, so why I'm not getting it, right? So what are the reasons, or anybody can think about it, like why these things are not for me? I mean, am I not the right match or not, right? So whenever we see the matrimonials, for example, like these are like 4 or 5 pages, so why I'm not getting one, right? So this is something similar to that. So what I feel is that we are not actually looking regularly on these websites, right? So there are various websites which I'm going to tell you in a couple of seconds, that we need to visit them regularly to see what kind of funding, new funding openings are there. Also, when we start our lab, we need to perform certain small scale experiments so that we can build a hypothesis. Right? We also need to build a team to get a fund. Right? So it doesn't look good, but sometimes a team get a project. Right? So when I talk about like a huge grants, like which goes in crores, so we need to build a team. That team eventually get the get the fund. We also need to think about funding, because every institution has a research and development office, right? So people need to take help from them, right? So similarly, they need to write effective grants. So I mean, how good you are writing the grants, it's also very important, right? And as I told you just that every funding agency, when they fund a theme, they fund an idea, right? So if somebody is funding on cancer, you cannot write to them, I want to work on solar energy, right? So you need to match your thoughts with the kind of call which we get, right? Similarly, we need to match it to our expertise. So for example, I'm a core biologist, so I cannot work on something which I never thought about, right? So I cannot work on how we can manage gold, right? So World Bank, if they are giving some funding for gold management, then I cannot write those kind of things because it doesn't match my expertise. I cannot even support that, right? And also I would say there's another thing. One reason could be we are not writing effectively. So for that, we need to join grant writing workshops, which are given by various stakeholders, right? So these are the ideas which I thought I want to share with you, so that it will be helpful. Okay, so now how to begin, right? So let us see, can we build a thought today so that we can understand how to start a funding process. So whenever I see a proposal, believe me, I mean, this is something which I regularly do. So I regularly visit the websites, what kind of funds are available. And after coming over here, I was able to submit up around 4 or 5 proposals, I guess, and it's around 2 to 5 crore rupees. So we throw this idea whenever we see a proposal. We always check whether we fit ourselves into that or not. So we don't have to rush to every proposal, right? So we need to see whether we need to do a SWOT analysis of the SWOT analysis before we go for the proposal. So we need to see the SWOT of the proposal. What are the strengths, weaknesses? What are the threats? Why can't we? Why can we be rejected, right? So what could be those reasons for rejections? We need to see the proposal. We also need to see whether our team is strong or not. So that we can work on the team also. Sometimes it is very important to do a SWOT analysis of the deliverable, right? So what kind of product or what kind of thought after we get a funding and we start doing our research in that program, so what would be the outcome, right? So we need to also do a very critical SWOT analysis of the deliverable, because these are the ideas which actually, when we are writing a proposals, makes our proposal strong. And sometimes we miss this, right? So for example, if you think about, like, I have a research idea, right? So what kind of deliverable we are going to give? Okay, what kind of product in terms of, or what kind of knowledge we are going to deliver to the community, right? Similarly, once the project is completed, for example, there's a project on some hydrothermal, right? So what is the exit strategy we have? Like, how further this research idea will keep on going. So for example, if there is a scientist, right? So I just came to my mind. So if there is a scientist, he want to work on poverty elevation, right? So they want to remove the poverty. So they develop a small projects where they feed a very local population, right? So after 5 years, they need to see that how they're going to exit. So they don't want to die the project. The project should keep on going. So they generate the funding agency, they give the money for your thought for a particular period of time. So now you need to have an exit strategy where a project will keep on going. Say for example, how to decrease poverty. If you have a model, then that model need to be built along with various agencies, right? So that after the project money is completed, then we can still run the project. So the project should not die. The funding dies after a certain time, like 5 years or 4 years, but then there should be an exit strategy for that. So we need to do all these analysis before we submit the proposal. I should say, like, not even submit, before even you think of the proposal, right? So all these things need to be well thought of. So there are certain examples where you guys can look various websites. So this is a website from Department of Biotechnology. You can go. There is a heading like schemes and programs. There is a funding mechanism. You can see there's many funding opportunities which are available, like for research and development, for building capacities, right? These things are available at DBT website. Similarly, there's a for international cooperation, right? For translation industry and developmental program. There are certain special programs which are run by Department of Biotechnology, right? So these are the various schemes, or this website is very useful. Similarly, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. So on their website, they also have certain schemes for funding. Similarly, Department of Science and Technology, it has a dedicated website, and in that website you can easily see there are certain scientific programs or science and technology policies. You can scroll them down, and then you can see what are the funding agencies and the programs which are available funded by DST, Department of Science and Technology. And also there's a small window at DST which always scroll up, and you can see the call for proposal. They talk about different types of proposal which comes newly. So you can also click that and you can get to know about that. So I'm going to cite a small example here with all of you so that you will understand it more better in a real perspective, I would say. So let me share with you this thing. Yeah. So this is a live example where you can see there's a call for proposal for biomedical device and technology development program under this TDD program of DST. So if you look at this proposal, I mean, whenever you visit the DST site, so you can go to this call for proposal, and you can see that there's a call for date, and tomorrow, the last date is tomorrow, right? So 30th of 2020, 2020 is the last date for this proposal. So let us look at this proposal, like how it looks like, right? So when I downloaded this proposal, I found this, right? So if you read the title of this, it says Biomedical Device and Technology Development Program. So this is a program of Department of Technology, right? And what they want to do, right? So I talked about the theme. So we need to see what is the theme of this particular call. So what they want to develop. So you can see over here, there is a two kind of things they want. First could be late stage prototype development. So you need to develop a prototype, right? And also we need to see whether we can also develop a pilot scale testing and validation, right? So these are also certain things which we can do, and where scientists can work upon, right? So they identified various areas, right? So this is the theme which I talked about. So they want to develop medical device for early detection of women's disease. So the focus is on women's disease, right? So it could be breast cancer, it could be ovarian disease, right? It could be early detection of various cartilage and bone disease, because we all understand that in these days we find in women there's a lot of bone degeneration is going on, so something like that. So might be Department of Science and Technology have thought about let us build a program in India so that scientists can work upon the problems related to women, right? Similarly, they also have a maternal health panel, so where you can write a proposal. There's a devices, but if you read this whole idea, then you will see that it will melt down to a couple of things which I am going to discuss, right? So similarly, this proposal requires certain things which you really need to read very carefully. So there should be involvement of a clinician, a doctor, practitioner, and also industry, right? And also they talk about project duration, how much it would be 2 to 3 years, how they're going to want. So you need to read the whole protocol, what they really want, right? And when I read this proposal, although I didn't apply for it because it requires a different type of expertise or teamwork. So when I read this proposal, I thought like people who actually have a team of associates, they can only apply. They need to have a clinical scientist. Clinical scientist should be there. Engineering faculty should be there. Industry component should be there because they really want to develop a device which is related to biomedical application, right? So you cannot imagine this project without a clinician, right? You cannot imagine this project without an industry which is actually going to take this project later on. So industry will come into the exit strategy part, right? Scientist and clinician as well as the engineer are going to develop a device, a prototype, right? And then the industry should vouch that. All right, when the industry will say, yes, we are ready to take this proposal, so let's work together. So the team should be something like this, right? So this gives us an idea. Whenever there is a proposal, we really need to look and go into the shoe of the agency, right? We really need to see what they really want, what kind of requirements they have. So over here, when I read this proposal very thoroughly, I found like at least we need to have 3 or 4 people which actually belongs to different strata of or different dimension of science, right? Industry, engineer, and scientist, clinical scientist, right? So similarly, there is another agency which is known as Indian Council of Medical Research. They also fund a lot, and in the COVID era, they funded a lot of projects, right? So when I was looking at their proposal scheme, I found it's very common. So if you look at any proposal if you look at, so they have a basic headings, basic thoughts, basic requirements they have, right? So I think I would like to invest a couple of minutes on understanding application form and how we can fill that, right? And I also want to talk about a project which I completed very recently, Indo-New Zealand project, so that we will understand how a proposal looks like and how all the things will look like, right? And so let us take a walk on this path, and it will really help us to understand a research proposal. And you will see like you are actually writing a proposal, right, in the next couple of minutes. Okay, so let's try that. So first of all, whenever we see an application form, it always starts, many times it starts with a title. What is the title of the proposed research area, right? What do you really want to do? But believe me, as a thumb rule says, whenever you write a research article, always write the title in the end, right? But title is very, very important, right? Similarly, when you need to develop a thought, and title can come later on, but the title should be, as yesterday, I guess, day before yesterday, ma'am was telling like how we write a title of the paper. It is similar to something like that. It should be very concise but sufficiently descriptive, informative, right? So it could be of 3 or 4 lines also, but it should tell like what you really want to do, how, and all the aspects, right? And what you're going to achieve. So it is a very different type of science to write a title, right? So as you grow in your career, your mentor tells you like how to write an effective title. So in our project, when we submitted in 2016, we wrote a title like testing for the efficacy of functional foods and collaborative development of an assay system to determine impacts of foods on antioxidant activity. So our idea was, many companies, they say we are selling food which has antioxidant activity, right? And these days on television, we are seeing daily, eat this, your immunity will boost, eat that, your immunity will increase, something like that, right? So Indian government and New Zealand government, they sit together. They thought like, can we really do something on functional food? So they have a call for proposal. So in that call for proposal, I submitted a project with this title, and our idea was, can we develop some assay system, some detection system by which we can easily study the impact of food on antioxidant activity of human body. I mean, in the real term. So this is something which we chose. But the real question is, like, we all have our expertise, right? We all have our expertise, and the idea is like how we choose what shall we propose, right? So how we choose that process, right? So it has very interesting metrics which I read from different books. So I call it XYZ metrics, right? So it is actually based on the realistic goals, like how you see yourself as a scientist. So whenever I talk to any scientist, so I ask them to fill this XYZ. So can we fill this? So I am working on the topic X, which is very easy to answer. Believe me, if you talk to anybody, any scientist, what are you working upon? So you can easily tell, I'm working on this, right? Then many or only a few people can answer, or the experienced one can answer, because I want to find out why, right? So it's kind of tricky. So you can all see that how to tackle this question, right? And very successful scientists, I mean, sometimes this question bother many scientists. So if you ask them like, so what, right? If somebody say, I work on nuclear energy. So if you say, so what? Then it becomes like, I mean, am I doing something wrong or what, right? So you also need to understand this Z, so that I can help others understand Z. And a successful people who are actually successful in their career, to do research, not to get grant, but it is also true for doing a research, right? So if you can answer these Y and Z, then you are really a great researcher. And these things, if you understand it better, only then you are going to write a great proposal, right? Because this is something is under your skin, which is something in your heart. Only then you would be able to write a great proposal, if you understand what you're actually going to deliver and why you are delivering it, right? And sometimes my previous boss, he used to say, like, if you're working on some topic, so if I delete this topic from the dictionary, if I delete this topic from this earth, what is going to be harmed, right? Something in that direction you need to think about. So it will really going to help you guys to go in depth into your topic, right? So this is something which I always say, like, try to work it out, the XYZ metric. So you can say, like, I'm working on the top cancer because I want to find out the cure, so that I can help others to understand, can these cures can be developed for other diseases or something like that, right? So this is a realistic goal. I would also say, whenever you are writing a proposal, don't make it like an encyclopedia. I saw certain proposal where people say, I would like to work on cancer. I mean, it's like encyclopedia like kind of topic. You need to be very specific, because you are asking for some money, right? So you need to know, like, something like that. So I can give you a small metaphor over here. So if somebody comes to you, because believe me or not, in our life we have funded many projects, right? So say, for example, there is some religious ceremony, right? There's some jagran, right? So people come to us, we are going to do jagran, can you fund us? So we fund them like 500 to 1,000 rupees, right? But if somebody come to us and they say, we are going to celebrate some religious thing, and then you will not fund them, right? Because you do not know what they're going to do. If they say, I'm going to do this some sort of event and it has this kind of output, then you will understand. And sometimes you give more also. If somebody comes, I'm going to do a blood donation camp so that I can help the villagers surrounding me to get some sort of support. So you will say, like, okay, I will give some part of my salary even, right? So it depends upon how you're proposing, right? So you really need to manage your title. You really need to manage your area when you're proposing something, right? And it is going to also, you need to show a special interest in the sense, like, your topic should be very specific. You cannot do everything, first of all. And similarly, when you're proposing something, in that proposition, you cannot write everything, right? So this is something I always say, your topic should be manageable. So I can throw a small example over here. So say for example, there is a person who say, I want to do research on cancer, right? So he can say a couple of things. So you can see 3 statements over here. The first is, I want to study cancer disease. I mean, this is good, this is great. But then a person say, I want to study cancer disease in children, which is better than the first one, right? But if you want to, if somebody writes a proposal, you should say, study genetic aspect of lung cancer disease in children whose parents works in tobacco industry. So you can see a clear-cut idea what the person really want to do. In the previous 2, I mean, in the above 2 examples, you know what the person want, but you really don't know like what is specifically he wants or she wants, right? So this kind of titles or this kind of thought should be there in your mind when you're writing a proposal, because this will really going to help you in drafting as well as to give a clear-cut picture to the reviewer of your proposal, right? Similarly, whenever I teach in my class about these research topics and how we write research articles, I always cite this example of mass, right? So there was a call for proposal by international agency. They want to find out why, I mean, idea was to understand the different types of mass, right? So it's a social science research topic, mass. And there were like 3 different types of thoughts which comes. So proposal can talk about mass in religious ceremony, which is very broad, right? And then they talk about this because which is slightly better than the previous one. But then this third proposal, it is actually funded, right? So why Mudhead Mass as a symbol of sky spirits in Hopi tribes death ceremony? So the person, if you read about this line, last line, you see like he is very, very clear what he really want to achieve. And that's where sometimes I feel like whenever I read a title of a research article, I should be able to make out like what kind of experiments even they do. So in our previous, I should say, in our research, I always say like whenever you read an article, can you make out like what kind of experiments the scientists have done? Can you really can write those things and you can see like whether you're right or not? So this last title is going to tell you that what the person is going to do, right? But if you read the first title, mass things and religious ceremony, I mean, there were like millions types of religious ceremony. What you are talking about, I mean, it's absolutely not clear. So besides the title, which I talked about, research proposal also asks you to write a small summary. And whenever they say 250 words, it should be 250 words. It should not be more than that. Okay. So they also tell you like how you can structure your summary of the proposal, right? So besides title, the second topic which comes is the summary, right? So you need to write some certain keywords. You also need to write certain abbreviations. Besides summary, they also say you need to write a background on the proposal. So what kind of background study or information is available for that, right? So you need to write this background also in 500 words. Then this is a very interesting part, literature review. So literature review, we generally write in a proposal to understand what people have done so far. But that doesn't mean we have to write everything. Writing a literature review is, I would say, it's kind of tricky. Because if you see the previous title when I talked about cancer, right? So if a person is writing the title of the grant is cancer, then he can write even books and books on that literature review. But if a person is working on cancer related to tobacco in a family, which is a genetic disorder, then that person is going to talk about only around that aspect in the literature review. All right. So this is something which all of us need to remember when we are writing a proposal. So literature review is also linked to the scope of your study. You cannot write everything, but you need to justify, and it's also smartness. You actually are trying to justify your questions right? Your research questions you're trying to justify based upon the previous, and you also try to write the gaps in that. Okay. And similarly, another topic which every agency asks, what is the novelty in your project? Is it really novel? Is your method is interesting, or is there is any innovation is involved, something like that. So here also you really need to write the based upon your literature and your question, you need to see like how you're going to answer this question. Okay. Question is also important, and how you're going to deal with it, how you're going to answer that, what kind of approaches you're going to take. You need to slightly highlight those things in this particular part of the proposal. So this is also a very critical part of an application form, how to write novelty or innovation. All right. So after discussing all these things, in the application form, you will see what are the study objectives, what are your objectives, what you really want to do, right? So the idea is to write specifically what you really going to talk about, right? So objectives could be 2 or 3 or 4 sometimes, but not more than that. I mean, you really need to, but it depends upon the scale of the project also. If the scale of the project is international, then might be you want to write objectives, and you can also write primary and secondary objectives, right? Something like that. So when I wrote my proposal of Indo-New Zealand, then we wrote these 2 types of 2 objectives were there. So to develop the mass spectrometry method for targeted proteomics, something like this. And our second objective was to examine in control and oxidatively stressed cells how the specific oxidation of the proteins is taking place. And I also, because when I was writing this grant, I learned a lot, and we also justified why we want to do it. So this is an interesting way to write an objective. So you write what you want, what you would be doing, and then kind of small output you can write, right? And then you can link it to the next objective, right? So something like that, this you need to practice while you're writing study objectives. After this, there's a section which talks about methodology. Many people, when they write methodology, they just write the titles. You really need to look like what you are going to tell, so that the reviewer should be able to understand whether these methods are enough to answer the objectives, right? So methodology is also a very critical component of any research proposal. So it should talk about what kind of study design you are going to do, how much is your sample size, what is your plan of implementation, related to ethics review, data collection, statistical analysis, how you are going to actually execute the thoughts, right? So this is actually linked to the objectives of your proposal. And there are certain other headings also, which we always see in research proposal, whether it is national or international. It is like expected outcomes, or we sometimes say what is your deliverable, right? So what is you are going to deliver, right? So these are the things. And many times we also write the research publication as an expected outcomes, which I don't think is a outcome. But yes, patents could be outcome, development of a device could be an outcome, a database could be an outcome, in like computational sciences, if you do some sort of thing, or some software, some development of some software is an expected outcome, something like that. Then the second point is the limitations of this study. So we all understand whenever we do any study, there is some limitation, right? So it's not going to solve the problem of the whole world, right? So there are certain limitations. So similarly, you need to understand those limitations, so that, and when I recently submitted this Indo-UK grant, they also asked like how you solve these limitations. I mean, they go beyond one point more, like, so we also have to write if those limitations could come, so how those limitations can be overcome, right? And they all, so I also remember they asked for plan B, right? If the experiment doesn't work, what is your plan B? Because your goal is there, right? So you want to solve something X, right? And you set out 3 objectives to solve that. But sometimes people need to have a plan B, because the fund is with you now. So the government has given you 2 crore of rupees, right? So they're not just giving you just to get that, right? You need to solve something. So many times, even if they don't ask per se, so you need to really have a plan B to come up with something which can help you to understand the topic, or to solve the failures, or to have something else. Beside this, they also ask for future plans based on expected outcome. I would say future plans means the exit strategy. You might remember, like when I started this talk, we talked about the exit strategy, how we are going to exit from the project, so that the project or the idea should keep on working, right? So it will keep on going. Okay, so these are the certain headings which comes under that. Now I'm going to discuss two very critical point over here. One is the timeline. So research proposal, they always talk about how in the 3 years you're going to distribute your work, right? So this is the timeline which I proposed when I submitted the project. Like in the first 6 months, what I'm going to achieve; in the second 6 months, what I'm going to achieve; third 6 months, what I'm going to achieve. Something like that you're willing to draft.
Rubika ma'am, am I audible?
Audible?
Yes, sir. Now you are audible, sir.
Yeah, actually the light has gone, so
Yeah,
some.
yeah, I got it, sir. It's okay, sir. You can continue now.
So the next topic which I wanted to share with all of you is the timelines, right? So this is one way to write timelines, and the other way to write timelines is this, which I submitted in another one of my projects. Like you can make some sort of bar chart, and you can write what you're going to achieve in those months or those timelines, right? So this is also a critical part of a proposal, and I will tell you why these things are very critical, right? And then you also need to tell like what kind of support your institution is going to give you. So it doesn't mean like they are going for your project, what the kind of facilities are available at your place, right? So you can write those things like laboratory, how the data is going to manage, and what kind of resources which are available at your place, right? And this is the part where many times people like they get confused, like what to write, right? In the budget part. So now this is the critical part where actually we are asking like, give us the money, and we're actually justifying why we require money. Okay. So in the budget, we have different heads. One is talks about consumables. So this is a right?
Excuse me, sir. So your voice is not clear, Adesh, sir.
Require. Then we need manpower also, like research fellows, they work with us. Then there's a contingency, exchange visits, like when we go to New Zealand and come back, so what kind of funds we require. And then you have a total, and this is actually divided into 2 years, the first year and the second year. So in the budget part, all the proposals, they ask for justification also. So you need to write appropriate justification also for everything. Why you need so many consumables, what you're going to do with that, right? And justification means like what are the items which you are going to ask for, and why you need a manpower. I mean, straightforward answer is like to increase the speed of the project, right? So similarly, contingency, right? Contingency is actually taken for some sort of characterization, I would say, or some sort of unexpected expenses we generally add in the contingency. And if there is some sort of travel is required or some exchange visit is required, so you need to write why you really want to visit their place or why you want to travel. So something like that, because this part is very critical. And every funding agency, whenever they see a proposal, at the end of the day, they just look at the budget, right? So they say like how much budget they're asking. Okay, so you really need to not to overflow your budget. Like if you really need 10 lakh rupees, you cannot overflow it to 100 lakh or like 150 lakh rupees. You need to reason your budget, right? So all the time you need to reason the budget. And also many times people miss this part: endorsement from the institution investigator. Every proposal at the end they ask, like, you need to endorse certain things whether you're working there in the institution or not, right? And another important area is that you should never ever submit one project at two places. Never do that. Sometimes if you got caught, your name can be like blacklisted also. Okay, so never submit endorsement, never submit a proposal. This is also onus of the institution, because they are actually signing on your behalf, because at the end of the day the registrar of the university or the head of the university or institution is actually submitting the proposal, right? So although scientist is submitting, but he's actually endorsing it. Okay, and if you submit a proposal at two places, not only you but your institution can be in a problem, right? So this is something which we all should remember. Until unless we get a rejection from the funding agency, we should not submit it anywhere else, or we hear something from them, right? So and each proposal should be submitted with a proper channel, like, so you need to take approval from your registrar or from higher authority, and then you submit the proposal. And then you also need support letters if they are required, and then you need to add relevant annexures. And also sometimes we also miss that approval from committees. Can be proposal. So they actually mention that in the proposal itself. So if you are, say for example, biosafety committee. So I am the chairman of biosafety, institutional biosafety committee of Maharishi Markandeya University. So if you are working on certain viruses which are very, very dangerous, then you need to take permission from the biosafety committee to submit a proposal, also to execute the proposal. So if you get a grant and if your committee say no, you cannot do work on these aspects, so I mean this becomes very tricky. So it is always good to have a confidence with your committees. Similarly, animal ethical committee or human ethical committee, right? So these committees, you need to always see whether your proposal requires some sort of clearance from them. Similarly, if your project involves certain study in the forest area, right? So you need to take a clearance from the forest department, atomic energy department, right? Something, I mean, it depends upon the kind of proposal you are submitting. But as a scientist, it is your responsibility to be aware of all these committees, right? So we need to submit, when we are submitting the proposal, we also need to submit these endorsements. And when you do all these things together, then people or the reviewer of your proposal will see that the person understands the subject thoroughly. It's not like he's submitting for the first time, right? So this is something important I would like to say. And then comes the day, right? So when you submit a proposal, then comes the final day. The funding agency is going to call you and write you an email that you come to us and present your proposal, right? So you need to give a presentation over there, and for that presentation you need to really work on what you are going to talk about, right? And especially I would say, if you really have this thing, pilot scale data. Pilot scale data is a small as a result of certain experiments which you have done earlier, based on which you have actually hypothesized an idea, right? So you really want to share and show that this is the basis of the research or the proposal, right? So pilot scale data plays a very critical role when you're presenting your proposal presentation to the funding agency, right? And you should always have an explanation for the budget. Although you have written over there, you should have that. Based on my experience, you really need to also have a clear-cut idea about the deliverable, what you're actually going to deliver at the end of the day. And also, whenever they call you for presentation, they actually there are certain guidelines which they give, so you need to critically follow that. So here we have understood in the last, I would say, 45 minutes, why a funding agency fund, right? How a proposal looks like, and what are the critical parts of the proposal. Okay, but in the whole scenario, if you see, the most critical question is what we are working upon, right? And how the funding agencies will see us. So this is something which we all need to remember. And when you do everything, then you get this kind of letter. So this I got in 2013 that my project got approved. So I wish that whatever projects we have submitted, so we all will get that. So we received 64,84,000 rupees from Department of Science and Technology for the project. So this is one. So this is a good part of the story. But in my life, if I have submitted, I would say like in the last 11 years of after coming from US as a postdoc, because doing postdoc is very easy. You are actually like a student over there. Your mentor has a project, you're working under that project. And once you start your own lab, then you write a proposal. Now you are actually a married person, you have a children, now you need to feed them. It's like something like that. If you take this metaphor with our life, like when we were kids, our parents are worried, right? And now when we are parents, we need to earn to feed our children, right? And similarly, as a scientist, I have like PhD students, so I need to feed their thoughts, take my research further. So we do a lot of, we go through a lot of ups and downs. So I have submitted many proposals, but and I also received rejections. So never dishearten yourself. And I'm going to share a very funny thing with you. So this is Carol. She's a Nobel laureate. In 2009, she received the Nobel Prize. And look at the I would say interesting fact is on the same day she also got a rejection from her grant. So she submitted a grant, and when she was at Cold Spring Harbor, she was giving this talk on that day, and she was saying like in 2009 I received the Nobel Prize, but the same day I also received rejection on my grant proposal. So certain people were saying like even on the day when you win the Nobel Prize, people who are in your opposition or something, they can ask them, does she really know what she do? Or I mean, so this is something I would say like on the lighter side, even Nobel Prize winners get rejections. So I worked with Professor Venki Ramakrishnan from 2000, who's a Nobel laureate, and while working with him, I learned like not only rejections but also how to see when your experiment doesn't work, but how to boost yourself and how to deal under those circumstances. So taking rejections is an opportunity. I mean, once your project is rejected, it gives you an opportunity to improve it further. And as a scientist, we have a, I would say, unsaid or unoathed oath, right? So that we will never give up, right? So we keep on trying again and again, right? So to take the rejections, there are certain suggestions. I would say what I already discussed with you, this is something like that. But I would suggest you one thing. There's a website called Open Grants, and in this website, there are more than 200 grants which are actually given over there, which are successful as well as unsuccessful. You can go there free, you can read about them. And when you read them, then you really come to know that it is actually how you are pitching your proposal, right? And again, believe me, managing your topic, managing your objectives is very important, right? And similarly, I recently learned an interesting thing is that try to use graphics, try to use models when you are writing a proposal. Okay, let us see from the reviewer's point of view. Let us go into the shoe of a grant reviewer. So you are a grant reviewer, right? Say for example, and you have to review around 50 grants. How you are going to review it, right? So this is a very simple question. So if I give you 50 research proposal, right? So how we are going to review that? And you have a time limit of 10 days or like 1 month. Okay, and also because you are a reviewer, it means you are a big shot, right? So you also have to deal with your students. You are a scientist, so you are doing everything. So you need to manage the time also. Okay. Now, to me, it seems that the onus is actually on the writer or the person who is actually making the proposal. So graphics and models, they actually help the reviewers, right? So if rather than writing the whole drama of your methodology, if you make some graphics like how you're going to do it, the reviewer is going to go through it very swiftly, and he will understand what you're going to do, right? Similarly, your plan of work should be like it should be in a proper manner, and there should be some models should be there, right? What is your hypothesis? You can also propose a hypothesis in a sort of models, right? So think about how you as an applicant can make it easy as possible for the reviewer, right? So that they will easily, you can break the deal, right? So these are small things. And I also suggest one thing. I know like most of you are very educated, but try to avoid spelling errors, grammatical slips, and other lengthy things. Like whatever they have given you that word limit, don't go beyond that, right? And grant writing, believe me, it is very different from the paper writing, right? So paper writing is very rigid. Whenever we write a research article, it is very rigid in terms of what you can say and in what you must say, right? So I mean, this is something, but the grant writing is kind of a more speculative and self-promotional. Okay. And I also it's my personal perception that whenever writing a grant, you also try to write about your team. Who are the team partners? What are their strengths? You need to spell it out. Okay, so these are certain things which we all should remember. So I think we are moving fine. And now I want to give you a very big picture. So now we will talk about how I can get 100 crore rupees grant for the institution, right? So there is a proposal, Horizon 2020. It is one of the biggest European Union research and innovation program, and they have a budget of 80 billion for 7 years, right? So it means like 10 billion per year from 14 to 20. So if I want to get a grant from them, so how I can get that? And when I was reading this research proposal and was going through this European Union budget proposal, I found certain things and I learned a lot. Okay. And I want to share that small learning with you in a couple of slides. Okay. What I found that in today's era, for mega projects, the things are moving from silos to nodes. I will explain that. But silos means when you are working in a room and in a very defined compartment. Okay. And connections means when you are actually connecting a lot of things. Okay. So this is a small idea which will also help all of us to understand the research perspective or research per se in a different scenario. So this is a small belief I have that science has gyres. Gyres means like you have a small circles in a pond which are actually independent of the other one, right? So they are all developing, they're all flourishing. If I say this is zoology, so this has its own center, they are developing their field. Similarly, this is social science, they are developing their field. This is computer science, they are developing their own field. Engineering, they are developing their own field. I mean, don't take me wrong, like I just put it randomly, right? So astronomy. So these all are gyres of science, right? So every scientist somehow, if he's a person of chemistry, he will see like, I'm a chemist, right? If he's a botanist, he will not go beyond botany. If you're talking about social science, he will never read science, right? If you are a computational science, computer scientist, you don't bother like what is gene and what is DNA, right? Even we don't bother like what is what, right? So this is the gyres of science, right? So, but the research is not doing science. Research is doing human welfare. Research is doing solving the global problems, although at a very low level, but your main agenda, so what type of questions never arise. So if you understand that, so global challenges, biodiversity conservation and pollution, something like that, right? So scientists, they generally have boundary, right? Scientist has a boundary. So being a biologist, I'm a biologist, right? So being a chemistry person, I have a chemistry, right? So computer scientist, social science, engineering, pharma, right? I am in MCA, I am in medical science, I'm this and that, right? So and so on. We have all of us as the silos, right? And I'm very courtesy. I shared these thoughts with Professor John Lodge, who is at John Hopkins Medical School, Baltimore. So he gave this presentation in a different context. So I asked him to if I can share this with other people. So I borrowed it from him. So silos, if you see these silos, why they are different. Biology is different in methods and technology. Chemistry is very, very different in what kind of methods they use, what kind of technologies they use. Similarly, pharmaceutical sciences, engineering. So they all use different methods and they all use different technologies, right? So what if you push these silos? Let us push them. And what we found, from these silos, certain facts, certain results, or certain goals comes out, right? And we don't care about the methods, what methods they are using. As a biology person, your goal could be climate change, right? Your goal should be to resolve a disease like coronavirus. If I say coronavirus, these all silos can bring down to certain outputs where everybody can contribute. Why not a computer scientist can work on solving the problem of corona, right? Why can't a social scientist can work upon the problem of corona? I mean, you can have a problem and you can have a different dimension. So when you you tilt these silos, you actually leave the methods behind, and then you see that all these methods, they are actually coherent. And this is what I always believe, and I always say it is a scientific study, right? So as a researcher, you should be familiar with the key methods which are available at each scale, right? So this is our responsibility. If you really want to solve something, if you don't want to solve something, we want to stick to the two questions of X and Y, we don't want to go to Z, then we are good, right? Then you can sit in your room, you can publish papers 10, 20, 100, but at the end of the day, nothing will come out, right? But if you want to deliver something at the end of the day, so you really need to be familiar with actually key methods. What it will help you? It will help you to develop the collaboration. It will help you to solve a problem, right? And it will give you a bigger perspective, okay? So when this coherence is there, these all things join together and then they make nodes, right? So why can't we have a node of poverty? Why can't we have a node of genetic disease, right? Why can't we have a node of cancer? Why can't, so for example, if I talk about malnutrition is a bigger challenge. Why can't a pharma person, engineer, a social scientist, chemistry person? I mean, can you imagine like a person from chemistry is working in climate change, or a person working social science work for climate change? Believe me, this is what is happening right now globally. In all the big institutions, people are not working in silos. People are working towards goals. So they have, I imagine, I mean, I want, just because this is our international conference, I want to share that we all should have institution or colleges like this. College of Poverty, where person from biology, chemistry, social science, pharma, working together to look at that angle. Malnutrition, agriculture reforms. Why can't we all work together, right? So these all things creates nodes, but nodes are not silos. Believe me, if you see nodes very clearly, then you will see these nodes are actually connected to the human welfare, right? And this is what mega grants are all about. So my friend who actually talked to me and said like they would be receiving, might be this mega grant of 100 crore rupees. So he told me like in their team, they have scientists from computer science, they have scientists from engineering, they have scientists from biology, they have a virologist, they have a lot of people who actually are trying to solve a single problem taking into account different dimensions, right? So these nodes, they create connections for solving the global issues, and the larger amount of money is actually sitting when you are solving a global issue, right? So as a scientist, I would say, as a biologist, if I will talk about, like, we should know what are the different methods, or what are the different things a chemist can do, what are different things a social scientist can do. Can you imagine a cancer biologist, if they don't talk to as the social scientist, can they become a better cancer biologist? I don't think so, because they should also see the societal angle of cancer, right, rather than sitting in their room and solving the problem. Similarly, engineering guy who's working on agriculture reforms, they should talk to chemistry people. I mean, this is something I believe that you all might agree upon. Okay, so these all things will improve your scale of thinking. This will also give you a new dimension to write a research grant. Okay, so whenever we get a research proposal, I would suggest that try to create a bigger team with bigger dimensions, so that your proposal is going to be to look better, right? So so I'm just finishing up. So the take-home message from today's talk is find a suitable funding agencies. Of course, if you want to work on nuclear energy, you cannot apply to ICMR if you are not, and something like that, vice versa. And when you have a team of experts with you, so try to match it, the theme with your team's expertise. And one of the biggest learning I would say we can take home today is that if you want to go for a mega grant or something very big, then we really need interdisciplinary approach, which I think our university is taking up, where different scientists, they can work together in solving many things. So that's all from my side. And science is something like this. So as a scientist, we are always going up and down and balancing ourselves. So in the end, I would like to thank certain websites from where I collected this data, especially Nature Journal. So I've gone through many articles published at Nature to make this presentation. So I'm thankful to that. And again, I'm very thankful to the whole team who has actually organized this wonderful international conference. Thank you so much. So I'm ready to take up any questions. So yeah, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing a valuable knowledge with us. Now let's just move to the question answer round. We have lots of questions in our chat box, sir. I will ask question on the behalf of our participants. Okay, so let's start with question 1. The very first question is how to find funding agencies and expectation of the funding agencies.
How to find a funding agency is in the expectation of a funding agency.
Exactly.
All right. So let me rephrase the question. So I think the person really want to ask that how to find a suitable funding agency for himself, right? So if you are a chemist or if you are a biologist, you actually look for various funding agencies which are actually into your domain. So if I say you are a chemist, so you can look at the DST and other parts. But as I told you earlier, finding a funding agency is a very rigorous job. It's like looking for a match through matrimonial, ma'am. So we always keep on, every Sunday when the newspaper comes, we keep on scrapping it, right? Similarly, the funding agency, it's like finding a job also, right? So we go through different job portals. So there are various portals like DST, ICMR, other websites are there. So you need to scroll that up. And you also need to look upon your expertise, right? I just told you, like, there are 3 or 4 different types of scientists which are available. One works in silos, one works with a team. So you need to see your team fits in where, right? So I think that will help you to solve it. I guess okay. I answered that.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So the next question is, how can we get funding with collaboration with outside India universities?
Outside Indian universities, it's a very tricky part, right? Until let's say you know the person, right? Say for example, how I developed a relationship with Professor Venki Ramakrishnan or his lab. So I visited a conference. So going to international conferences, uh, sharing your results, sharing your knowledge with other people will help you to develop relationships. You cannot just write somebody, right, a mail that I want to collaborate with you. I mean, who cares, right? But if you go to a conference, you meet those person, right? You discuss with them over length, right? And then you come back to India, you develop a relationship. Is not a one-day job, ma'am. Relationship is a very slow and meandering process. So it's really wavy. You need to go and slow, and it takes years to develop that. So when I went over there, it's not like I just go there, they hugged me and they say, let's collaborate, right? So it's not like that. So you share your data, you sit with them, you discuss the problem, and then on the common grounds you suggest, and then the collaboration keep on going. So I had this collaboration with New Zealand agencies. So there's a lady, Christine Winterborn. So I had from the last, I would say from 2013, we are working together. And recently we published research articles in a very reputed journal of 10 impact factor, right? So it's a slow process. So believe me, you can do that, but go outside, show your data to others, show what you can do. It's not what you are asking. Many times we see like, yaar tum mujhko na koi kaam de do, so I will do it, right? So it's not like that. So you just share the thoughts. You should have a common ground, something like that. So my thing is like, go to conferences, go to seminars, and you will find people who are actually matching your thoughts. So that's how we collaborate.
Exactly. Yeah. Moving to the next question, sir. Next question is from our international researcher. He's saying that are the funding agencies in India for African nationals? If yes, how can I apply for the same?
African nationals.
Yeah, for African internationals, sir.
African international.
Yeah.
Believe me, I don't know the answer. I'm not the guru of this, but of course, our embassies can help us in understanding that. So if there's a person from African country, so you can talk to your because UK embassies, they very well coordinate with researchers. So they also go for seminars. So I have attended many seminars in Chandigarh where people from UK embassy, they come and they discuss about university collaboration, also individual collaboration, like UKRI grant is there. So my suggestion is there. I might be wrong, but you can take a help from your embassy. That might be helpful. Yeah.
Okay, sir. One question is from the person. A few contractual faculties change the institution every year due to non-permanency or temporary nature of job. So in that case, project half the way goes to whom, research or organization? May I repeat the question?
Yeah, I didn't get the question actually. What they really want to ask?
Few contractual faculties change the institution every year due to non-permanency or temporary nature of job. So in that case, project half the way goes to whom, research or organization?
As far as I know, it is very clear-cut set by DST, DPT, and other organization. The project actually stays with the PI, right? So PI take the project first of all. Secondly, nowadays, because this happens very frequently in private universities, considering that, the funding agencies also say you need to have a co-PI, co-principal investigator. Right, so the co-principal investigator becomes the principal investigator of the project once you leave the university. So the project doesn't move a lot, right? So say, for example, if a person has the habit to move from one university to another university quite often, right? So either the funding agency is going to blacklist them, or later on, or the university or the co-PI is going to take over the project. So there are certain examples over there, but the DST, DPT, and other people, they have a clear-cut guidelines for that. So yeah, Rubika, so this is my thought on that.
So the next question is, suggest some names for the funding institution of Maharashtra.
Okay.
Maharashtra. Name of the funding institution of Maharashtra.
Name of the funding institution of Maharashtra.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I don't know that.
Okay, one more question is, which is the funding agency is good, HRD or CSIR?
All are good, whosoever gives you money.
That's a perfect answer, sir.
You cannot say good or
Exactly.
bad, right? And we cannot say, if I say CSIR is good, the HRD is not going to give you money. So all are good. Whosoever give you money, I mean, take it. So don't worry.
Very nice. Uh, so, sir, it's okay. It's all are fine, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank
On
you,
the
Rubika.
behalf,
Thank you,
on the
everyone.
behalf of on the behalf of MICTB, I would like to thank our distinguished speaker, Dr. Adesh Saini, for making an excellent presentation and making this session a very meaningful and interesting. We hope all the participants will get benefit with your suggestions. I also extend my thanks to all the participants for their presence and for their enormous cooperation during the session. Now, I would like to request everyone to please switch on your cameras for group photograph. Please, everyone, switch on your cameras.
Did you also say cheese?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Now, I would like to announce our next session. It will be start at 11 a.m. sharp on a sustainable ecosystem for research and innovation in HEIS with Ms. Savita Vadhavan as a moderator. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. It was a very nice session. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Adesh, sir. Thank you so much.